The US strikes a Houthi missile site in Yemen after the rebel group attacks a British oil tanker in the Red Sea.
The WHO Director General said that Israel's claims it was colluding with Hamas in the Gaza Strip put its staff at risk.
Russia marks the end of Germany's Siege of Leningrad 80 years ago, which led to at least 1 million people dying. US forces say they've destroyed a Houthi anti-ship missile that was preparing to attack shipping in the Red Sea. Only hours before on Saturday, the Yemeni rebel group attacked this British oil tanker. The mall in Luanda burned for hours before the fire was put out. No one was injured, however. A Houthi spokesman vowed to continue the attacks.
إن القوات المسلحة اليمنية تؤكد استمرار عملياتها في البحرين الأحمر والعربي ضد السفن الإسرائيلية أو المتجهة إلى موانئ فلسطين المحتلة حتى وقف العدوان وإدخال الغذاء والدواء إلى الشعب الفلسطيني المحاصر في قطاع غزة.
Since mid-November, the Houthis say they've been attacking vessels linked to Israeli interests, but it's clear many of their targets have no links even indirectly to Israel. Their campaign has disrupted global shipping and drawn both the US and UK into armed conflict as the Israel-Hamas war spills over into the wider region.
The Italian government has suspended funding to a UN agency providing aid to Palestinians, joining the US, Canada and Australia. This comes after claims 12 members of staff were involved in the 7th of October Hamas attack. UNRWA said the organisation is investigating those accusations.
The Secretary General is horrified by this news and asked Mr. Lazzarini to investigate this matter swiftly and to ensure that any UNRWA employee shown to have participated or abetted in what transpired on October 7th or in any other criminal activity be terminated immediately and referred for potential criminal prosecution.
Meanwhile, the WHO Director General said Israel's accusations it had colluded with Hamas by ignoring evidence of the terrorist use of hospitals in Gaza were harmful. Meanwhile, Palestinians are fleeing from Khan Yunis towards Rafah, the southernmost city of the Gaza Strip, bordering Egypt as fighting continues. The Gaza Health Ministry says the death toll is now 26,083, with more than 64,000 Palestinians wounded since the 7th of October.
Russia's been marking the end of one of the worst chapters of its World War II history, the Siege of Leningrad 80 years ago. Russian President Vladimir Putin laid flowers at the landmark stone monument in St. Petersburg to remember the 600,000 to 1.5 million people who are estimated to have died, either from the hunger and the cold or the Nazi bombing and artillery shelling. Belarus's President Alexander Lukashenko is the only European leader expected to take part in the anniversary, despite the fact the Russians played a great role in defeating Nazi Germany. German troops surrounded the city and completely cut it off from supplies for 872 days, bringing unbearable suffering to its inhabitants. The daily bread ration for them was just 125 grams during the winter of 1941 to 42.
Up to 35,000 people gathered on Friday evening in front of the Austrian parliament to protest against right-wing extremism. Protesters held up signs showing slogans like "Never Again is Now" and "Stop the Hate Against Migrants." The demonstration comes in the wake of similar protests in Germany following a news report that right-wing extremists recently met to discuss the deportation of millions of immigrants. Speakers on stage accused the Austrian Freedom Party of supporting such plans and warned of a, quote, repeat of history.
President of the European Council, Charles Michel, has announced he is withdrawing his bid to be an MEP. The move comes just 3 weeks after he said he was running with the reformist movement in his home country of Belgium. Michel was leaving office prematurely to devote himself to his European election campaign, an announcement that attracted criticism. If he was elected as an MEP, it could have paved the way for Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán to replace him as European Council President temporarily. That was something other EU countries were keen to avoid.